Hello. Greetings. How you doing? Boy, I've got to button my shirt to hold my microphone in. How are you doing this fine evening? Any weird comments lately? Everybody's been commenting on my skin, which is really weird. I don't understand that at all, to be honest with you. I isn't it well here in the United States anyway? There's like a new lockdown, which is absolutely ridiculous. And action and reaction. Actions have consequences. Isn't this ironic that they cut the budget drastically up in New York, and then they completely got rid of like a 600 police officer criminal division that investigates crime. And so now New York has literally descended into a completely new abyss and hellhole. And crime is running. See, not only are the citizens not allowed the ability to protect themselves with certain devices up in New York City, that if you were a criminal and you knew that the cops weren't going to do anything, and all the cops are quitting en masse, and the criminals don't have the wherewithal, the instrumentation for self-defense. Criminals are radically emboldened up there. It kind of amazes me that the pseudo-intellectuals, and this is no slant if you live in New York City, but my entire life, if you're not an American, you wouldn't know this fact, but people that live, and I lived in San Francisco for quite some time with my wife, the pseudo-intellectuals, and I've seen this, it's actually, I feel like it's worse in Chicago because I've been there more than a few times. The pseudo-intellectuals that live there, they love to think they're so much better than everybody else because they have culture, and they can go down to the theater and watch a famous play, and they have exquisite shopping capabilities, and of course it's just miserable to live there, but they really do think that they're so much better than everybody else, especially like anybody that would live in the South. And yet I look at en masse at those people and and I'm not about politics, but I still can't get a hold of myself that they would actually, re-elect that horrific, abysmal failure, Mayor de Blasio. I mean, any normal human being with common sense, which doesn't seem to be very prevalent anymore, would look up at news like, why would you re-elect that guy? I mean, he was an abysmal failure, and you re-elected him. Anyway, so I've been in contact with more than a few real estate agents, and they're actually doing business like crazy. And I sold off a third of my possessions to buy a 14-acre farm in southeastern Kentucky. It's got a beautiful barn on it, and this gorgeous pond, and it's just a gorgeous piece of land. I've literally sold a third of everything that I have, pretty much. I sold my most expensive, not my most expensive camera, my GFX 50S, and over 100 of my lenses, and I sold off some stuff that I've had for decades that are valuable, very valuable. So anyway, yeah, I bought a miniature farm, and but I mean, I didn't buy it thinking, that the cataclysm is coming. So I've always wanted to own a decent parcel of land away from civilization. Well, I mean, there's a town a few miles away, but it's not a sizable town. I can tell you this right. I've always been a bit of a survivalist. Actually, I've been more than a bit of a survivalist. But I'm actually seeing like a consequence of a chain of events that are leading up to some nasty stuff. Things are kind of coming to a head here. And I'm not moving anywhere. But I can tell you one thing for sure. When and if evil strikes the big cities, and everybody's losing their minds, the only people that are going to survive are going to be the good old boys up in the hills. These people are incredibly self-sufficient. They're kind of like a mix of Bear Grylls, the survivalists, Jed Clampett. But I've always felt great disdain for the general ethos and mentality, the psychological zeitgeist, as you say, that psychological, the zeitgeist of the big cities like Chicago, New York, and LA, and a few other places, because they really do think they're intellectually superior. And they're actually just the opposite, by and large. That's not to say there aren't brilliant people, and I know a few of them, that live up in those cities, but your real estate is garbage. You keep re-electing, and I'm not about politics at all, but why do you keep re-electing these dismal, disgusting failures? That you're in New York City is literally falling back into the ninth level of hell back in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, when New York City was just a crime-ridden piss hole. And this is why people are leaving en masse from New York City, LA, Chicago. I know a lot of people are just packing up and get the hell out of there. I mean, a lot. Well, I made a video about this about 2 weeks ago. Like, yeah, I live up in those cities. I'm leaving. We're getting it out of here as soon as possible. But this is not about politics or anything like that. I don't hate politics. I'm all about logic, wisdom, and common sense. I'm not on the left or the right. I've had people think I'm incredibly liberal, and I've had people think I'm incredibly conservative, and I'm neither one. I'm all about common sense. Half the reason that the world is so insane is that everybody's living in a bubble now. We all are watching our TVs. We're watching the stations that we want. It's not about TV. But everybody's living in a bubble. We're literally enjoying our own sad little echo chambers, most all of us. And, Hollywood lives in a bubble. They're literally, they're sniffing their own excrement. And it's not just people in big cities. They're just people that, all that we do, most all of us, both Americans and Europeans, is, we go to the grocery store. Nobody goes to movies anymore because what's going on in the world. But even then, we don't interact with anybody. We've lost the ability to have a halfway open mind. People think we're more open-minded because we accept counterculture, we accept alternative lifestyles, and we do. We don't pick on different sexual orientations. Nowhere near like the horrific nature of what it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s. This is true. And that superficially makes society seem like it's more open-minded. And on that level, it is. But people now, ironically and contradictory, are living in a bigger bubble, a smaller bubble, than they ever were before. People just live in their own echo chamber. Nobody knows how the world works. I mean, you take these fools that think that in the big cities, for example, Minneapolis. I always thought Minnesota and Minneapolis was, a very logically or straight-minded group of people, and I went up there a few times with my ex-girlfriend who lives outside of Minneapolis, and I knew something was really off about the people in general. I've got to always have a quick ability to see what's going on in a particular area. Like I was able to judge, what goes on. And when I lived out in the East Bay of San Francisco, there's just a lot of rabid insanity. People like put up with crazy people dropping heroin needles all over the place. And the things that people tolerate actually says a lot about people. But everybody is they're living in our own little sad echo chambers. And we're only hanging out with those that think exactly like us. No one has any tolerance. People are far less tolerant than they ever were before. Superficially, if we look at our tolerance level for different people that are different than us, as far as orientation or ethnicity, we're way more tolerant in that area, but we're infinitely less tolerant as far as free speech is completely out the window in the United States. People are rabidly insane. So it's extremely paradoxical that we are far more tolerant as a human being of what someone is by their very nature. Who they are, their orientation or their ethnicity, whatever. That's improved drastically. But humanity is infinitely less tolerant of common sense and having a halfway open mind. People are radically opposed to having an open mind to anything that contradicts their take on the nature of the world. I mean, if what happened here recently in the United States happened, say, 20 years ago or so, you know, that's an isolated number of incidents. I mean, you wouldn't have people that don't know how the world works. Let's completely eliminate the police department. Well, let's see what happens when you do that. I mean, anybody with half a brain knows how incredibly unintelligent that is. I mean, this is the reason why New York City is undergoing a super crime wave. Not only, and the police don't want to get, if you're a police officer, you're being spit on and hated. I mean, it's a low-paying job to begin with. It is. It's a crappy, low-paying civil servant job to begin with. Your life is always in danger, but now everybody hates you and you're being spit on? I mean, what the hell with that? Who the hell would want to be a police officer? A lot of them did it, not for the money, but to be helpful. You know, that there's so many, mental midget fools out there that think of a few isolated incidences that we're going to, you know, cut the budget of the police officers in New York by half or something, and they completely eliminated out a 600-person criminal investigative division of New York City's crime division. I forget which division it is. I mean, what the hell did you think would happen? People are just so radically insane, and they're so lost in the little nutshell of their own minds. If anybody actually were to seek the truth and wisdom, they would realize is that if you're proven wrong in a debate, and a debate doesn't mean argumentation, if you're proven right, then you know you're on the right track. It's like, come on and attack what I've just said. And of course, if you win it, you know you're on the right track. If by logic, wisdom, and common sense and evidences, demonstrable evidences, be they the retroductive or explicit objective evidences, then you've been corrected and you've been pointed on the right path. So whether you're proven right or whether you're proven wrong in argumentation and debate, formal argumentation and debate, the result is always good for you. But we don't teach any of this stuff for high school or junior high or college. None of this stuff is taught. You have these professional liars, which is what an actor is. An actor is nothing other than a professional liar. Telling other people how they should live. I mean, they're literally living in a little glass bubble. They walk around with armed security everywhere they go, and yet they want other Americans to go defenseless in their lives. It's like, well, what sort of knuckle-dragging, subhuman scum and fool are you, Mr. Famous actor or actress? I mean, what a hypocritical sack of poo. You walking around in your armored car on your security, telling other human beings, in the light of all the cops quitting, not literally, but essentially, that they don't have the right to defend themselves and their family and their property. I mean, what sort of subhuman scum are these fools? I mean, we pay them endless millions of dollars to watch their, entertaining little movies so we could, escape life or escape our lives for a couple hours. Watch a movie every other day or week or whatever the hell you watch it. You're paying these idiots millions of dollars. I mean, these people don't know anything about anything. They literally live in little bunkers in the Hollywood Hills behind gated communities. They're most of them are alcoholics and or are drug using, coke sniffing scum, and these people love to reach out to the little people of the world, of the country, telling them how the hell they should live. Well, sorry, Mr. Paid Liar, which is what an actor is, with your armed security. Shut the hell up. You're supposed to do your job and act. These people have nothing intelligent to say. The fact that people, by and large, listen to famous people is absolutely mind-blowing. These people, almost none of them have any wisdom, any common sense. They don't think logically. And they're so laughably hypocritical. It's unbelievable. No, you shouldn't have the right to defend your family and your children and your house. As they say, well, they got armed security guards flanking you. I mean, what hypocritical scum. Absolutely unbelievable. I can't think, and I don't think there's ever been a point in time where you go back to Marie Antoinette where she said, let them eat cake. She's just so completely oblivious. We're like talking about French royalty. These brain dead, pampered, highly inbred scum, which is what they are, scum, so oblivious to the way the world works. It's like, oh, they're starving in the streets, um, starving in the streets, princess. Like, well, let them eat cake. They don't have any bread. She was so oblivious that she said, well, if they don't have any bread, then let them eat cake. That sort of oblivion. This is exactly how famous people and rich people are, and I'm not doing a class warfare crap against rich people. It's not that they're rich, it's that they're so incredibly unintelligent and oblivious. They don't know how the world works. They live in their own little bubble. They literally don't know how the world works. Like those 7 scumbags on the city council of Minneapolis that voted to defund the police department. These people, I forget what it is, they're being paid $200,000 a week. Literally, from taxpayer money, they're being paid $200,000 a week for their own security. Yet they want to defund the police and jeopardize the lives of all the taxpayers? I mean, you really have to be a special breed of mentally defective scumbag to even think for a microsecond in your head something like that, much less speak it and propose it and put it into action. That's not politics. I'm all about common sense and wisdom, not politics. And there's a breed and a strain of insanity that's running through society right now that is on a suicidal spin, down the drain. And there's a trajectory of society where society is going to clash, implode, revolt, or all three combined. And I really think that's actually very proximal. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope it's not close, but I hate to make a video like this. I don't want to be like a bummer or anything like that, but there's some hardcore crazy going on in the world. And there's always been hardcore crazy. There's been genocide in World War II. I know history better than a lot of people do. And compared to what the history that's taught to teenagers and 20-something today, I mean, I know more than any of them do, including history majors. I mean, there are people that are going for their PhD in history, and these people don't know anything. They haven't learned the lessons of history, and they don't even know history. I don't know what country you live in, but there are millions of people that actually gave their lives in war, paid the ultimate sacrifice, that I would have a right to free speech and a right to self-defense. And those rights that were paid for in blood by millions and millions of people that gave their lives for the freedoms of this country are not going to be marked benefits or void or canceled by some sort of mentally inept human trash in this current crazy world. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You're not canceling out my freedoms or my rights. This sounds political, but it's not. It's about inalienable rights that were granted to me by, and also to you, depending on what country you live in. I'm speaking to Americans specifically right now. These people, millions and millions of people gave their lives so that I would have and enjoy those freedoms. They gave their lives. And so, do you really think some sort of pajama boy, guy dressed in black, pajama boy subhuman animal acting like a deranged fool in the streets is going to cancel my rights and my freedoms? Oh no, girlfriend, it's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. The United States specifically is on the verge of something here. And if it gets much worse, it will be exactly like this. It will be exactly like when wiser minds in Japan realized after they bombed Pearl Harbor that, oh shit, we shouldn't have done that. It's like a little person walking up to a sleeping giant and kicking him in the crotch. You know, it's like you got a blow in, but now you're really in for some trouble. It's going to be kind of like post Pearl Harbor, when people, yes, a few people, and I forget the Japanese general's name, said that he fears that we awoke a sleeping giant. It'll be a rehash of that sort of thing going on in the United States. I hope that doesn't happen at all. But when the craziness reaches a peak, it will be an internal, oh, you kicked the giant, and now the giant's woken up, and I don't want to see that happen, you know. The point is that the craziness, and the crazy specifically, needs to be dialed back. This whole defund the police thing and leaving people defenseless and robbing people of their freedom of speech and other rights is not going to happen. It's not going to go over. It ain't ever going to go over. You could actually get away with that in the bigger cities where a sheep-minded consensus view, and the most evil word in the English language is the word consensus, because there's no such thing as truth by consensus. You can get away with that in like Chicago, LA, or New York, or a couple other cities, but it won't go off in most of the United States. It just won't happen. So I hope that doesn't happen. I don't even want to see what sort of horrible face that would actually take. But yeah, the craziness has to be dialed back a whole lot of levels. You don't want to push it to the level of tilt. But anyway, society unfortunately is living in a horrible bubble. There are just a lot of pseudo-intellectual fools out there that really don't know how the world works. They just haven't got a single clue in hell. And the hypocrisy that goes with it is absolutely astounding. Anyway, I wanted to make this video. I kind of more made it for myself than for other people, but I'm sure it'll get a lot of downvotes, but at least I was honest in it and forthright. And that's ultimately all that's important. You need to be truthful, honest, and logical, not try to shaft people, not try to sell them anything. You know, that's the important points. After that, you just let the chips fall where they may. It's like, well, that's kind of why most videos should be made. I occasionally fail at that myself. I mean, I'm never selling anything to anybody, but you know, I just try to be honest and forthright and helpful. But I'm definitely not running a popularity contest, and I certainly won't win one. I'm not even trying to, so if I did that, I'd just lie a lot and just say things to make you happy. That would be an indication that I was trying to run a popularity contest, which is never going to work. Not by me, it's not anyway. Thanks so much. Goodbye.